Right, I'm here with Greg Mulholland, who's the Liberal Democrat MP for Leeds North West, which, as it happens, is my own constituency. And here with the Thames in the background there, and a very important question that I'm sure you'll be interested to hear Greg's views on, which is basically, in the light of what we've been hearing about over the last 2 or 3 years. Greg, I wonder what your views are in terms of whether or not MPs should pursue a portfolio career.
I think it's a fascinating subject, and I'm someone who has found out about the idea of portfolio careers, really having, in a way, pursued that sort of career for some time. And indeed, before I became an MP, I spent 2 years as a local councillor in Leeds, and at the same time was working part-time and doing volunteering work for a number of charities. And I didn't know that actually effectively is following a portfolio career. But what I think is fascinating is that since getting elected to Parliament, I think actually the very job of an MP in Britain, because it's so diverse, because you have the constituency interests to deal with, you have your casework with your constituent cases take up, then of course your parliamentary job. In a way, the job of an MP actually is one big portfolio career rolled into one. So I think it's very useful to have these different skills. You need to be able to juggle the different things you're doing, and really ensure that you're doing things that are really quite different and yet make them work together for you and work together for your constituents.
I suppose one of the big differences between, say, some other people with portfolio careers, because as you can see the range of interests that you have that allow you to use a wide range of skills and tap into a lot of your passions, but people with what I call genuine portfolio careers do actually have employment and therefore revenue and income from more than one source, whereas you of course still will largely have income from one source. But we do know there are a number of MPs that do have income from more than one source. I wonder what your views are on that.
That's right. Well, I haven't written any books yet, or some of the other things that other MPs do get other sources of income. But I think it's interesting. I think after this election we will see some MPs who are leaving Parliament actually pursuing those portfolio careers, and indeed I think it will be increasingly difficult for MPs to go back into, if you like, normal employment after doing the job, and in some ways would be rather a waste of the skills and talents that we work here. But yes, you're absolutely right. Certainly for most MPs, myself included, we have one source of income, but in a way we're operating in a very similar way. It's just that our reward doesn't come in the way of getting more votes, more income from things, but it comes in the way of getting a particularly successful campaign. And of course, in the end, it's are people going to vote for you? Are people recognising what you're doing? So you do invest particular proportions of your time to do certain things because they benefit you in other ways. Yes, it's not money, but it does work in quite a similar way, I think.
Of course, with an election coming up, there will be some MPs currently that will actually lose their jobs, and some people argue that's always the problem when you've got all your career eggs in one basket.
It is, and one of the big commitments about wanting to stand for Parliament, and particularly if you're serious about it, is that you are taking a big risk. And indeed, to be a good MP, you really have to put those other interests and other careers and potential careers on one side for that period. And of course at this election we're going to see more MPs standing down than ever before. There'll be some of course who will lose their seats, but many have already announced that they're going. So yes, it's going to be a very, very interesting situation, a very different Parliament after the election from the point of view here. But I think you will find that the job market will suddenly have another 200 or 300 people, many of whom I think will pursue portfolio careers in whatever fields that they choose to work in.
So just finally, would you actually encourage or discourage MPs from having jobs in addition to having a job as an MP?
Personally, I don't see how anyone can be a really good MP and do other jobs, and that's of course apart from those who are ministers, and that is of course a different job. And I think it's worth pointing out that ministers who do get extra money for doing that, they do have that additional job of trying to run departments and run the country on top of their duties that the rest of us have. But I certainly think it's impossible to do the job of an MP and to seriously take part in other jobs. However, I don't think it's sensible to say an MP can't write a book, an MP can't do the odd speech. I don't think it's sensible to rule out any forms of income. That it's a question of making sure that all of those are declared and are fully transparent. But certainly, from my own point of view, I work far more hours than certainly my wife and children would like in doing my job. So this is more than a full-time job. It's very much it's a career, but it's also a vocation. But luckily for me, it's one that I'm delighted to be able to follow.
And apart from anything else, there'd be fairly major domestic options if you actually wanted to pursue a job in addition to being an MP, I would guess.
Absolutely. Well, I, of course, do have an important second job that I have to balance, and that's being a father.
Yep.
To two, and we believe, please God, 3 little girls from July. So yes, I certainly have my hands full, and they'll be even fuller from the summer. So that's about the only juggling I'll be able to do, bar the conflicting demands of constituency and Parliament and everything else in between.
Greg, thank you very much indeed. It was great to hear your views on that.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.